Hola, buen día a todos. This is José Serrano from Netskope.
And Raúl Gordillo.
And first of all, thank you very much for the organization for counting on us. And thank you for the assistance to take the time to listen to us. And today we are going to talk about protecting new threats and data. And yes, even ChatGPT.
Okay, so, well, this is something that is not from us, but is from Gartner, and probably something that all of you know, that the present, not the future, the present of the network security is in the cloud, because you probably have your email in the cloud, you probably are using S3 buckets, a lot of applications in business or the users are having applications in the cloud. So the best way to protect those traffic and those applications is using a cloud security infrastructure. So, but first of all, let me start with something personal. This is a picture of my web browser that I did a few weeks ago. And here you can see, well, I like sports, and I usually read the sport newspaper, the Marca in Spain. But you can see a lot of tabs here, and this is my corporate email. I put in white because of business.
We want you to focus on the URL, because this URL will be common from the corporate one and the personal one that you will see.
So here is this is the URL connecting to my corporate email. Okay, I have my LinkedIn profile and my LinkedIn traffic. We in Netskope are using Salesforce as corporate tool. Sometimes I use a traductor, a translator, the WhatsApp, and even my corporate G Drive. Okay, and also here is the URL. And this is true. I have also two windows, not only this one, but I have my personal window. Okay, and this is my personal one, and this is my personal email, Gmail. And if you remember, the URL is exactly the same, but this is my personal email. I have another personal email with Yahoo, where I had to reset the password of ChatGPT, sorry for saying in English. And also, I have my personal G Drive account that, if you remember right, I have, or this is the same URL that my corporate G Drive. So in this context, this is my real traffic, and probably is not, probably, I'm pretty sure that is not different than the users you have in your company. They are using newspapers, they are using corporate apps, they are using personal apps, they are using personal emails, and sometimes could be really tricky to separate the URL for the personal traffic or personal application, the personal instance, than the corporate instance. And that is something that you need to do, because if you are not doing, you are losing a lot of visibility, and you cannot do threat protection and data protection. So this is an example of real traffic, real user, in this case myself, but probably quite similar that all the users you have in your organization. And why we talk about this? Because nowadays we know that, and as you saw in the tabs, more than 70% of the traffic, the internet traffic, is cloud applications. So the web traffic, the pure web traffic, is decreasing day by day, and the users are using, sorry for the redundancy, cloud applications. Another thing that is really, really easy to see is that 90% of that traffic is encrypted. And again, if you don't decrypt that traffic, you are losing all the visibility. And if you don't have visibility, you lose the capability for doing threat protection and data protection. Most of the malware, or most of the malware is delivered via cloud storage applications. Okay, it's more than 66%. This information comes from our threat labs.
And this is key, that the malware nowadays is not being downloaded from a website. It's being downloaded by a cloud storage, which is probably or more than likely open in your company.
Exactly. We have data that OneDrive, SharePoint, GitHub, as is a tool that probably you are using, your users or some of the users are using day by day in your company. So again, the bad guys now that if you don't decrypt OneDrive or SharePoint and you are not able to apply threat protection mechanisms or data protection. Okay, so that information is really, really critical. And the last point that is also very, very, very important is that more than 74% of the data loss is via a personal instance, a G Drive or a personal instance, where the user is going to take the information and move to my personal instance. So again, this is because you need to do SSL inspection and decryption of the traffic and having information about the malware in this point and the data prevention. So this is what we are going to talk about today with Jose, and so the word is yours.
So basically, as you can see, the behavior of the user is moving from web navigation to cloud applications, and basically this is critical because the web application can be blocked, and you can block an application, a web application, based on many things, or a website. It can be blocked based on the threat protection analysis, based on the categorization of that website. It can be blocked based of threat intelligence list or reputational list. But what about the applications? The business applications that you are using nowadays on a daily basis cannot be blocked. You cannot block GitHub, you cannot block Slack, you cannot block OneDrive for sure, because this application needs to be open for business reasons. And bad actors knows that. They knows that the succeed rate is much higher when they try or they leverage these channels. And this is critical for the philosophy that the vendors we need to take on our solutions. One of the examples, I wanted to show you one of the examples of things that we are seeing on a daily basis. And one of the things we see is that these channels, these SaaS applications, can be leveraged for several things. And one of the things that bad actors are taking advantage on the open cloud applications in the companies is for using these applications as a command and control infrastructure, and actually they can use these applications for all the stages of a malware. And one of the really cool example that I wanted to show you is something that we are seeing in almost every customers, and we call it SLAP. And basically SLAP is the mixture between Slack and GitHub. And I'm pretty sure that most of you have these applications open in your companies, because, as I said, these are applications that are used in a daily basis for a business purpose in your company. Basically, attackers can use a GitHub, basically a GitHub channel, to post the commands that the attacker want to run on an infected system. And basically on this infected system, the malware can leverage a Slack channel to expose the results of the commands that you are running on the laptop. And finally, in this filtration phase, basically the malware can use another very common corporate tool, which is Dropbox. can be any other, but they can use a Dropbox, obviously a personal instance of Dropbox, to exfiltrate the data as a final stage of the infection. And as you can see, these three tools are more than likely open in every single company. And if you are not able to control this application, to control the activities on this application, to control the instances on these applications, you are totally blind to these threats. And this is totally key nowadays to control this new era of threats. Another risk is basically the exfiltration of data. Basically, this is pretty obvious that the web storage tools are used to exfiltrate data, and most particularly for insiders. We know that 20% of the insiders, staff that is leaving the company, is exfiltrating data using their personal instances. How do you control that? So basically, here's the Netskope approach. Is basically very, very oriented to controlling not only the old web surfing, which is pretty easy and is something that we give it for granted. But basically, we are really focused on controlling the SaaS applications. And basically, what Marcus says about that, we are very proud of our positioning in latest Magic Quadrant from Gartner. We are revalidating the leadership in the Magic Quadrant, and this year we are positioned even much better. We are basically leader of leaders, and this is basically because our vision of controlling the context. And what is controlling the full context? Well, others in the market are basically focused on the old school. Are very focused on controlling the web navigation, and basically they have a really limited context oriented to control the web application. Basically, they for sure are able to play around with the identity, with the device status. But when it comes to an application, basically they are only focusing, they only know about the URL. And basically this is not enough. For sure they can do a categorization, but the categorization for Google Drive, it is the same for them, even if it is a personal or a corporate application. But basically this changed totally the picture. In our case, in Netskope case, we are able to control not only the identity and the risk associated to the device, but also when you access to an application, we are able to control the instance. If it is a personal instance, a company instance, also we are able to control the risk associated to that application and the activity that you are taking inside this application. For that, you need to understand the application, and Netskope is able to control and understand more than 75,000 different cloud applications. For sure, we are able to do a threat analysis on the data that is being processed inside the application. But one important thing is that we are adding the data, the nature of the data that you are transactioning into the context. Basically, we are able to control the full context of what is happening inside the application, including what is the nature of the information that is being transactioned, to take a decision. And actually, this decision is not binary. It's not only allow or block. We can do much more things than allowing or blocking. We are able to do things like that coaching the user whenever possible. So you are able to coach the user, to tell the user what is wrong on the action that is taken. And based on that, we are able to allow the user even to justify the activity, to feedback our policy, and to be able to do a better policy in our company based on the information that the user is providing. I want to show you how it looks like in a in a regular or a configuration that we are implementing in a daily basis. I want to show you that with with the behavior of a user that is trying to exfiltrate information or to share information with a third party. Imagine Ted that is trying to to share information with a third party, and he decided to use in first instance an application which is not a very well reputed application because it's not business ready. Basically, WeTransfer is an application which is web storage or cloud storage, and among other things, for legal reasons, is not an application that is enterprise ready. Basically, in Netskope, we are able to detect that, this application, based on the reputation or on the different factors, is not a business-ready application, and we are able to warn the user, to warn Ted and say, okay, Ted, this application is not supposed to be used in a business environment. Please go to your OneDrive, which is supposed to be the corporate application that you need to use for that task.
But we can do, I mean, we don't need to block WeTransfer. The user can use WeTransfer for download any document that is in. But what we want to prevent is to upload a corporate document that could have sensitive info, and we allow the user to use WeTransfer and download whatever document that is already there. But we block or we coach, as in this case, and we say, no, you cannot upload a document, an internal document that can have PII information or GDPR information or protected information or whatever. You cannot upload using WeTransfer.
We are very granular with the activity that the user is taking, and in that case, the data that is transactioning. If that user is trying to do the same via Dropbox, Dropbox is an excellent application in terms of security. It's really business-ready application, but it's not the corporate one. So basically, we are able to understand the data that Ted is trying to upload to Dropbox, and in that case, it's fine for Ted to upload any document to Dropbox, as long as this document is not containing corporate data. But in this case, this document is containing PCI data, and we are able to to block. In that case, we are not giving any option to Ted. We are blocking immediately the transaction, and we are we are warning Ted that this information is containing PCI information. So please, Ted, go to your OneDrive corporate tool to carry on with that activity. And in that case, Ted, is a Rebel employee, and is going to OneDrive and is testing if he's able to exfiltrate that information using his personal instance of OneDrive. And in that case, he's using a different email to log in into his personal OneDrive instance, and we are able, to understand that the instance on OneDrive is not the corporate one, and we are able to block the activity and to coach again Ted to go to do this activity not only in OneDrive but in the corporate OneDrive instance. And once in the OneDrive corporate instance, we are able to detect the activity that Ted is taking or is trying to do, is trying to share this document with a third party external to the company, and we are able to to coach again Ted and say, okay, this is completely right to activity, but keep in mind that the risk associated to that activity is high because you are exfiltrating information to a third party. Are you really sure that you want to do that? And if the user finally is accepting that, he will be able to do that. So as you can see, we are able to control very well the activities that the user can do inside the SaaS applications, taking into account not only the identity for sure and the application, but also the instance that the user is using inside the applications and the activity and also the data. So as you can see, we have the full context on the transaction that the user is doing, and this is basically what Netskope is doing different from others. Okay, and getting back to the topic of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is one of the tools that are being really trendy today. And one of the things that users doesn't know about ChatGPT is that it's been used very often for the programmers to do its job. It's, among other things, there are a lot of risks associated to the use of generative AI, and the risk is very obvious. It can be used to exfiltrate data that can be it can be intellectual property of the company, and ChatGPT can use this information to present this information to third parties. What we can do with ChatGPT and other generative AI tools. So basically, first of all, or the first stage is that we are able to warn the users about the risk associated to that tools, and we are able to make them accept the risks and to log that acceptance of the risk. And once inside the application, we are able to actually control what the user is doing inside this tool. And in that case, it's fine to use generative AI. As you can see, we are allowing completely use, but we are controlling the usage of generative AI. What you can see, we are asking for help optimizing a script, and here is where the risk comes. Basically, one of the usage of ChatGPT is this is a really powerful tool to develop and to optimize scripting. And as soon as you paste or try to paste source code, we are able to detect that and and to block a specific pattern of information that you are uploading there. As you can see, this is a really powerful tool to control ChatGPT and other generative AI tools, to safely enable these new tools that are really useful for the company, but can have a really high associated risk.
And be aware that in this case, there is no any file associated to that data exfiltration or data exposure.
So there is data, but there is no files associated to it. You need to be able to classify on the go information to be able to detect the actual data that it's being transactioned to the tool. And basically, what are the takeaways of this session? The web is evolving to cloud apps. We are no longer using classic web pages. The risk is moving from the traditional websites to cloud applications. The URLs or the websites can be blocked, but the SaaS need to be controlled. You cannot give it for granted that the usage of well-reputed sites are being used in a good manner. And basically, bad guys knows that, and they are moving also to the cloud, to leverage that, to use or to spread the malware, and also not only to deliver the malware, but also to do all the stages of the malware. And this is basically being leveraged to do the command and control stage and also to exfiltrate the data over SaaS applications. And Netskope is really focused on controlling the SaaS applications. And here is where we can help on controlling these, these new threats associated to SaaS applications. And machine learning needs to be used in that tools like Netskope is doing to control the usage of that applications and the data that is being flowing to these SaaS applications. And with that, thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado.
And
por la presencia.
Have a good rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Bye.